What if your backyard birds have been warning you all along, not sometimes, but several times every single day, and you've never noticed? Even people who feed them daily, who know every regular by sight, hear these warnings constantly without understanding a single one. That's not a failure on your part. Bird language isn't human language. Different grammar, different signals, different rules entirely. Without knowing the code, it all sounds the same. Pleasant background noise. Pretty, but meaningless. Today that changes completely. And once you learn even a fraction of this code, your own backyard will never sound the same again. Let's start with something you've almost certainly experienced already, dozens of times, without ever knowing what it actually meant. You're sitting in the yard. Chickadees hopping at the feeder. A robin working the lawn for worms. The yard sounds alive, full, normal. Then, in one single second, it stops. Not quieter. Not calmer. Just silent. The feeder empty. The branches frozen still. The robin is gone. No movement. No sound. You glance up, see nothing, and go back to what you were doing. That was a mistake. Not because you were in danger, but because that silence was never an accident. It was a message. Precise, information-dense, broadcast by a network refined over 50 million years, and yes, aimed partly at you. So what does that silence actually mean? There isn't just one kind of yard silence, and they don't all mean the same thing. The first, and the most urgent, a hawk cutting across the yard. When a Cooper's hawk or sharp-shinned hawk passes overhead, the entire bird network goes silent within seconds. Not because every bird stops singing at once, but because one thin, high, almost unlocatable call sweeps through the yard first. That call is built to be hard to pinpoint. That's not an accident. A loud, clear call would hand the hawk the caller's exact position. So the birds whisper, barely a sound at all, and somehow every single bird in the yard hears it instantly anyway. Picture an autumn morning, coffee in hand, watching 3 chickadees and a robin at the feeder. Then, in under 2 seconds, empty. Nothing in the sky. Nothing on the branches. Nothing anywhere. 5 minutes later, a hawk lands on the neighbor's roofline. The birds had seen it long before you ever thought to look up. But not every silence means danger from above. This is where it gets genuinely interesting, because the bird network draws sharp distinctions between different kinds of threats. And the response is different every single time. A perched predator, an owl on a branch, a hawk simply resting, doesn't create silence at all. It creates the opposite. Noise. If you suddenly hear a growing cluster of small birds converging on one tree, loud, almost aggressive, look closer. There's very likely a perched predator sitting right there. The birds are driving it out of the territory together. This tactic has a name, mobbing, and it genuinely works. Researchers have documented owls and hawks forced off their perches by swarms of small songbirds. Tiny birds against massive predators 20 times their size, and the tiny birds win, through coordination, through noise, through sheer persistence. Next time you see an agitated cluster of birds circling one particular tree, look closer. You'll likely find exactly what they found. There's a third kind of warning, and for us this one might be the most useful of all, the ground alarm. Your backyard robin, arguably the best ground detective you have. When a robin suddenly stops foraging, lifts its head, and starts a hard, sharp tack-tack-tack. Something is on the ground close by. A cat, a fox, a possum, something moving low and near. This call is fundamentally different from the aerial alarm. It's louder, sharper, easier to locate, because a ground predator can't touch a bird in flight. The robin can afford to be loud. And here's something most people never realize about that specific call. It doesn't just warn other robins. Chickadees, sparrows, finches, every species nearby understands it instantly. The network is universal. A robin warns a chickadee, and the chickadee understands immediately, no translation required. Now here's the part that genuinely stunned me the first time I read it. The black-capped chickadee has one of the most studied call systems of any animal on Earth. Its alarm call isn't a vague signal. It's structured. It carries specific, encoded information, and Cornell researchers have spent years decoding exactly what that information means. The number of D notes at the end of the call encodes the size and the danger level of the predator itself. A small, agile, genuinely dangerous hawk, a sharp-shinned hawk, gets the most D notes. A large, slow-moving hawk gets far fewer. Because the correct response is completely different for each. Small agile predator, hide immediately. Do not move into open space. Large slow predator, organize as a group, mob it, drive it out together. The chickadee isn't just saying danger. It's saying what it is, how dangerous it is, and exactly what to do about it. This isn't simple animal noise. This is grammar. And here's the detail that took this research from interesting to remarkable. Other species were listening in the entire time. Nuthatches and titmouses have been recorded eavesdropping on chickadee alarm calls specifically, decoding the D-note pattern as if it were their own language. They've never needed to evolve the code themselves. They just learned to read someone else's. That's not instinct alone. That's information theft, working perfectly. Then there's the blue jay, the network's loudest, most confident voice, and also its single most notorious trickster. When a blue jay releases its piercing alarm call, every bird in the yard reacts instantly, no hesitation, no verification. That call has proven so reliable over centuries that the entire network trusts it blindly. But here's the catch. Blue jays can imitate hawk calls almost perfectly, note for note, and they absolutely use this skill to their advantage. Researchers have documented blue jays mimicking a hawk's cry purely to clear every other bird off the feeder. The feeder empties instantly. The jay lands alone, unbothered, and helps itself to the best seeds in total peace. You've probably watched this exact scene play out. A feeder suddenly empty, no hawk anywhere in sight, just one very satisfied jay. The network mostly sends honest signals. But not always. So what can you actually do differently starting today? This might sound complicated, but it genuinely isn't. You don't need to become an ornithologist. You don't need to memorize a single call. You just need to start asking one simple question every time you're outside. What am I hearing right now, and what just changed? Because that's the real key. Not the individual call itself, but the shift, the sudden change from one state to another. If the feeder empties within 2 seconds and you catch a thin, high hiss beforehand, that's aerial danger. Look up carefully. If a cluster of birds starts converging loudly on one tree, that's a perched predator. Look closer at that tree. If a robin abruptly stops foraging and starts that hard tack-tack-tack, something is moving on the ground nearby. Usually a cat. And if everything suddenly goes quiet and you see absolutely nothing, wait. Don't look first. Listen first. The answer is coming. There's one particular morning that has genuinely stayed with me. Coffee in hand, the yard running at full volume. Then that silence. This time I stayed still and just listened. Nothing moved. Nothing called. Nothing at all for almost a full minute. A full 60 seconds of nothing, which sounds short until you're standing in it, waiting, not knowing what comes next. Then a single sparrow, low on a branch, head down, body completely tense. And that's when I saw it. A neighbor's cat, moving slowly through the hedge line. The birds had known long before I'd even thought to look up. Try this for 2 weeks. Just this one thing. When the feeder suddenly empties, listen before you look. You'll start hearing things you've filtered out for years. The quiet contact calls between sparrows that simply mean all clear here. The sudden stop of those calls, which means something has changed. The difference between a relaxed yard and a yard on high alert. Your yard has been talking the entire time. You just hadn't started listening yet. And here's the part that impressed me most of all. This entire warning network doesn't switch off when you go back inside. It quietly runs straight through the night. It runs through winter, when almost no birds remain in sight. It runs through rain, and on specific nights each spring and fall. On certain nights, millions of migrating songbirds pass directly over American backyards, flying at 300 to 1,000 feet, in complete darkness. They're calling to each other constantly. Short, high-contact notes, just to stay together, species-specific, purpose-built for exactly this. On a single night in September, dozens of species can pass silently over your own roof. Invisible, but audible. If you know exactly what to listen for. Your yard never actually sleeps. It just gets quieter about it. Scientists at Cornell's Birdcast project actually track these nocturnal flights using weather radar, counting birds most of us will never once see. On a single peak night, radar has clocked hundreds of millions of birds crossing the country in darkness, calling the entire way. All of that happening directly above your roof while you sleep, part of the exact same network you've been learning about tonight. Has silence ever stopped you cold, and you couldn't explain why? Followed an alarm and actually found what caused it? Tell me below. I genuinely read every single comment. Some of the best stories in this channel have come straight from what you've shared. And if this video showed you something about your own yard that you never knew before today, do one simple thing. Subscribe, and turn on notifications. New videos come out regularly here, sometimes every few days, sometimes more often than that. There's an entire network of these signals we haven't even covered yet, and future videos will keep unpacking them one by one. Because the birds in your backyard never actually stop talking. You just have to decide to finally listen. Next time that feeder goes quiet, resist the urge to look immediately. Close your eyes for just a second first. Let your ears do the work your eyes usually do. You might be surprised by exactly how much you catch. Your yard has always been narrating itself. The only thing that changed today is that you now speak the language.